Welcome to Who Yelling Now, Season 3, Episode 4, titled Gender, the Costume Closet. For entertainment purposes only. Copyright Mackenzie. They say we come into this world naked. But that's not true, is it? We arrive wrapped in prophecies. It's a boy. Oh my, it's a girl. And before we even get to cry our first opinion, somebody's out shopping for our costume. Pink or blue, lace or leather, future husband, future mother. We haven't even learned to say our name yet, but somehow somebody already ordered the wardrobe. Life, it turns out, is not a journey. It's a dress rehearsal. And every decade, the costume gets tighter. By adolescence, we're in full uniform. Boys taught to strut like auditions for power. Girls told to smile like customer service for existence. And if you ever dare to improvise, the audience gasp. Stick to the script. But what if the script was wrong? What if gender is not biology or destiny, but the world's longest running play? Today on Who Yelling Now? We're not canceling the show. We're just walking backstage into the costume closet. Let's begin our story, The Costume Closet. The first time Avery opened that door, the air smelled like cedar and secrets. He was 8, the age when curiosity outgrows permission. His parents called it the spare room, but Avery called it the whisper, because at night the door hummed a soft chorus of silk brushing against gilt. One Saturday morning, while the grown-ups argued about bills, Avery snuck inside. It wasn't just a closet. It was a timeline. Dresses hung beside army coats, church hats besides motorcycle helmets. A wedding veil drooped over a football trophy. Every item had a tag. Mom before marriage, Dad before responsibility, us before we learn to pretend. On the floor, a box labeled normal. Avery opened it carefully. Inside was a single plastic crown, slightly chipped, but sparkling with something that felt like authority. When he placed it on his head, The room spoke. Walk this way. Talk that way. Cross your legs. Don't cross that line. The voices weren't angry, just old, centuries old. They smelled like perfume and patriarchy. Avery dropped the crown and ran out. The house exhaled a sigh of relief or regret. In the hallway mirror, Avery stared at himself. For a second, he thought he saw someone else looking back at him, someone freer. Inside, a voice whispered, "You are they, you are them. You aren't he, you aren't she. Who will you be?" The mirror then whispered, "We all start naked. But some of us never get dressed again." My listeners, my friends, fellow yellers, let me say this poem called "The Man Costume" to help us understand what Avery is facing. They said, "Walk like a leader." So I straightened my spine and bent my empathy. They said, "Talk like a man." So I buried my softness beneath sentences that never cried. "Be strong," they said. So I learned how to hold everything in except myself. They handed me a suit of armor and called it love. But armor has one purpose: survival. And no one told me how to take it off without bleeding. I've spent years dry cleaning pain and calling it pride, polishing silence like it's something noble. The costume fits, but it never breathes. And every night when I hang it up, the hanger sighs, whispering, "Maybe tomorrow you'll wear your skin instead." Friends, let's continue the story of the closet. Years later, Avery grew up and decided he needed a new suit. Not for work, not for church, but for clarity. They found a tailor downtown, wedged between a nail salon and a psychic. The sign read, "Gender fittings. One size shames all." Inside, it smelled like starch, dust, and bad advice. The tailor was an older man with perfect posture and the patience of someone who had seen too many people cry into fabric. Looking for something masculine?" he asked. Avery shrugged. "Something comfortable." "Ah," the tailor smiled. "That's the rarest fabric of all." He pulled two mannequins from behind a velvet curtain. One wore a glittering red dress and pearls that screamed confidence for sale. The other wore a navy suit stitched with exhaustion and pressed with expectation. "Which one speaks to you?" the tailor asked. Avery looked at both. "Honestly," he replied, "neither. Maybe a little of each." The tailor froze, like he just cursed in a cathedral. "Mixing, dear. You'll void the warranty." "What warranty?" "The one that keeps society from glitching." Avery grinned. "Then let it glitch." The tailor sighed and began measuring. Shoulders of courage, waist of self-doubt, inseam of possibility. "You're an irregular fit," he muttered. "Good," Avery said. "I am not a department." When the fitting was done, Avery slipped into his new costume. The voice whispered again, "We are them, we are they, we are there. We are we, you do not have to be he." Half blazer, half blouse, one boot, one heel, pockets deep enough for honesty. They looked in the mirror. Oh no, Avery looked in the mirror. For the first time, he didn't see boy or girl. He saw permission, or they saw permission. The tailor tilted his head. "Strange," he said. "I've never seen anyone leave here smiling." Avery winked. "Maybe your mirror finally saw someone free." My dearest friends and listeners, here is a poem called Heels and Helmets to further give us an understanding of what Avery is facing. I wore heels to the revolution. You wore a helmet to brunch. We both came overdressed and underloved. You told me armor was survival. I told you mascara was war paint. We laughed like two generals caught at a peace rally. Somewhere between the march and the mirror, we realized we were fighting the same loneliness from different angles. You said, "I'm tired of pretending I'm unbreakable." I said, "I'm tired of pretending breaking is beautiful." We swapped shoes for a day. You nearly twisted your pride. I wore your boots and discovered they were heavy. But so was the gaze that follows a woman at the end of it. We both limped home and agreed. The costume changes, but the exhaustion stays the same. Tomorrow, I'll wear comfort. You wear truth. Let's see who gets arrested first. Let's continue Avery's story. That night, Avery had a poetic dream. He dreamt of a great pageant in the city auditorium. The auditorium was full. Lights blazed. And the announcer shouted, "Welcome to the 10,000th annual gender pageant, where you don't win for being yourself, but for convincing everyone else you are." The crowd erupted. Cameras flashed. A banner stretched across the stage. Because authenticity is bad for ratings. Avery sat in the front row, sipping a soda that tastes like judgment. The contestants lined up. Contestant 1, Mr. Masculinity, flexing through insecurity. Miss Femininity, smiling through exhaustion. Miss Something of Confusion, laughed at by the audience, cheered by the few who saw their courage. The host wore a tuxedo, on one side and on the other a gown, spinning between identities like a coin that refused to land. First command from the host was, "Let's see you walk, contestants." The contestants strutted across the stage to the rhythm of ancient approval. "Now, contestants, let's see you talk." Each one gave a speech beginning with, "As a real man," or "as a real woman," or "as a real something that terrifies you." The audience laughed and clapped, booed. Some took selfies, as if the theater were a mirror, and the mirror refused to lie anymore. Then came the final question. The host turned to Avery, still seated in the front row. "You, audience member, what are you wearing tonight?" Avery smiled. "I'm wearing clarity. Tailored it myself." The audience gasped. The lights flickered. The banner fell. And suddenly the room went dark. When the lights came back on, everyone was in the wrong outfit. Fathers in skirts, mothers in suits, sons wearing gentleness like medals, daughters wearing rage like lipstick. Nobody moved. The host whispered, "The show is over." Avery stood up, bowed, and replied, "Then maybe life can finally begin. My dearest listeners, friends, family, cohorts, here is a poem called Crown of Expectations to help us through Avery's dream. They crowned me before I knew my name. Told me I'd won something, though I hadn't entered. Said I was the right shape for destiny, the right sound for belonging. They pinned ribbons of proper across my shoulder until my body forgot how to breathe. I smiled for the photos, even as my spine protested. I waved from the float of conformity, like a good actor in someone else's parade. The tiara shimmered 1,000 tiny mirrors, reflecting everyone's approval but mine. Years later, I took it off. It left a dent in my forehead, shaped like an apology. I still keep it, though, not as a prize, but as proof. Even illusions have weight. And friends, that's the thing about gender. It's not about who we are when we perform. It's who we might be when the curtain finally falls. So let's go check in on Avery. The next morning, Avery stood in front of the mirror again. The same mirror that once whispered those words of they, them, us, we. The mirror said this time to him, "We all start naked." But this time, the mirror, when he really looked, was crowded, not with a singular reflection, but with versions of him. The schoolboy in his pressed uniform, the teenager practicing confidence like a language exam, the adult faking authority at work, and in the corner, the child from the beginning, the one who opened the closet and found the box labeled normal. They were all standing there in the mirror, waiting. Avery looked at them and said, "You can stop pretending now." The reflections smiled. Then one by one, they began to undress. Not indecently, authentically. The armor came off. The lipstick of approval wiped away. The child stepped forward, holding the cracked crown. "Do we need this?" they asked. Avery shook their head. "No, keep it, but don't wear it." They placed the crown on the dresser beside a comb, a wallet, a small name tag that read Employee of the Month. The crown looked strangely humble now. The mirror, once loud with judgment, was finally quiet. And for the first time, Avery didn't see a costume. They saw a body, or Avery, he, him, she, them, saw a body that belonged to itself. The reflection whispered, "You made it back." And Avery smiled. "No, I just stopped leaving." Here's a poem called "The Costume Unworn." Today, I left my gender hanging on the chair. It didn't fight me. It sighed, like fabric relieved of duty. I walked out the door into something looser, something not designed for applause. And I swear the air felt different, like the wind finally recognized me. I didn't check how I walked, or if the curve of my smile betrayed the story they sold me. For once, my voice didn't echo. It simply spoke, unaccompanied. Somewhere, a little boy unclenched his fists. Somewhere, a little girl exhaled. Somewhere, a stranger walked by and didn't need to understand, only to let me be. We were all unbuttoning. We were all unlearning the script. And in that quiet, I realized freedom isn't found in the costume. It's found in the courage to leave the stage. My dearest listeners, thank you for being here. Gender, the first story someone tells about us, and the last one we ever stop editing. It's not about who's right or wrong, who wears what, or who loves how. It's about what happens when you finally stop auditioning for belonging. You don't disappear. You just take up your own light. This is Who Yelling Now? And I'm Olga Foreign, reminding you that sometimes the bravest thing you can wear is nothing but truth. See you in the next episode.